For exercise 5-22, I've already started a metric file, and to do this I'm just going to begin by drawing the front view. Now there's a little bit of math that we're going to have to do as we go along here, just to make things a little bit easier to follow. But what I want to do first is I just want to draw a line straight up 40. My next segment is going to come over here 45. Then that's going to go up 15, back 55. Now this section right here, as it goes down, we need to take into consideration the height of 15 and add it to the 40, so we get 55 plus the 10, which is the thickness of the base, so we get 65. So we've got 40 and 15, which is 55, plus 10, which is 65. So we go 65 here, and then where this would come out 40, we need to add on the 10 from the back. So I'm going to come out 50, and then I'm going to go up 10, and then close this object off. Now I know that I need a solid line right here to represent where that base is actually a separate piece from the rest of the object. Now this one here might get a little bit tight on the sheet, so I'm going to try to maximize the amount of the sheet that I'm using. I'm going to start my second rectangle from right here, which I'm just going to do a 40 by 100. First thing I'm going to do is set my offset distance, which is 25. Then we'll go 40 by 100, and you can see that that does go off of the sheet a little bit. On this particular exercise, what we're probably going to want to do is go ahead and scale up the title block, and just the title block. So you see I've selected everything in the title block using the scale command, which is right here. And I will pick right here as my base point and just type 1.25. And what that's going to give us is a title block that's scaled up 1.25 from what it normally would be. So now I can move this so that it lines up right here, which is where that bottom piece actually resides. The next thing that I want to do is I want to figure out where this thing sits, and I know that it sits in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a rectangle that represents the top of this object, which is going to be 55, 40, and then I'm going to move that right to here, and then move it again back 10. And what this does is this gives me basically my top view. I want to go ahead and trim out this. Right now I'm just kind of focusing on the visible lines. I'm not really worried about the hidden lines yet, so I don't want to get too involved with hidden lines at the moment. So here I've got my top view, I've got my front view pretty much started. I am going to go ahead and lay out my 25 by 25 box just so that I have a little bit better of an idea of where my right side view is going to be. So now I'll come down here to this virtual intersection and draw a line that goes across 100, up 10, and then I'm just going to use projection to project the last few points of this. Next I'm going to draw a 40 by 40 square, and it doesn't matter where I draw it, but this 40 by 40 square, once I move it down to the midpoint, is going to represent this face right here. I can now draw a 40 by 15 rectangle. That 40 by 15 rectangle, when placed directly over top of there, is going to represent this face here. So now I can begin to draw the rest of the features that I have in this particular piece. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw my first small circle, which is going to be projected off of here 20. After projecting off of there 20, I want to make the diameter also 20. Now I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to copy it in the direction up 30 and 60. And what that's going to do is that's going to create those three holes for me. Now you can see that this hole right here theoretically would be covered by this top piece. However, I know that I have a hole that goes through the top with a diameter of 30, and those center points mathematically are going to line up. So I'm going to come in here with the diameter 30 hole, so you can actually see this hole through this hole. Now I can begin to start to place some of my hidden lines. So I'm going to go to my hidden layer, and in In this case, I'm going to go ahead and change my hidden layer over to yellow so that you can all see my hidden lines. Again, go ahead and leave yours blue. So I know that I have a surface right here that's going to be hidden. And I know that if I project down from these quadrant points through here, that I'll get the hidden lines that represent the 3 holes on the bottom. Additionally, I've got this hole on top, which is going to be hidden. And now, one thing that we can do, since this is kind of centered as far as everything is concerned, rather than drawing the miter line and bringing it over, what I can actually do is I can do a copy, select these 2 objects, and then shift right click and say mid between 2 points. And pick here, and then I can just move this right over here to the midpoint. And that's going to give me the basic location for the hole that goes through the top. I'm going to switch back to my model layer for a second, and I'm going to line up with this midpoint and this midpoint. Using that center, I'm going to project a circle with a diameter of 30. Go back to my hidden layer, and now I can draw my lines that are going to go through here, representing the hidden lines for this particular hole here. And then, much like I did for these 2 hidden lines, I'm going to do the same thing for these. So I'm going to copy these 2 lines, select enter, shift right click, mid between 2 points, and I'm going to grab right here, and just pick that midpoint. And then the next thing I need to do is I need to locate those 3 holes over here. And the easiest way to do that is going to be to offset 20 with this line right here. I can now copy this, again, from that mid between 2 points, between here and here. I can copy that right to there. I'm going to go ahead and erase that line, and then I'm going to copy both of these over, and I'm going to just point to the right, and I'm going to type 30, enter, 60, enter, because that's where they're lined up. So with this one here, I was able to line up everything mathematically as opposed to going through and lining everything up with the miter line. I do need a hidden line from here to here to represent the rest of the bottom of my edge, and that is pretty much it as far as hidden lines and stuff like that is concerned. The last thing I want to do before I place all of my dimensions and center my object and stuff like that is, for this particular exercise, I do want to place some hidden or some center lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over to my dimension layer, and under my dimensions I can see that I don't really have all of the options that I would normally have for dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the Annotate tab, and what you'll notice come up under my dimension tools is I have a lot more options here. So I'm going to come up here and click on the little drop down button, and that's going to get me to center mark. Well, when I click on center mark, I can then click the circles that I want to apply a center mark to, and for all intensive purposes for what we're doing on these drawings, that's all you need for the center lines. You don't need the big fancy lines. Just a regular center mark is going to be good. If we were doing an exercise where we were doing centered lines, what I would have you do is go to the center line layer, and from here you would actually be drawing a line that exists on the center line layer. I'm not concerned about that because we're not going to be dimensioning to anything that's hidden in this particular exercise, so just these center marks will, for the most part, be good enough for this particular exercise. So again, from here you're going to want to center the drawing completely, you're going to want to dimension it completely, and then you will be turning it in.